We're continuing in the 5th chapter of the 3rd act. May this reading relax your mind and awaken your heart. While in Patna, Narayan Prasad became a dear friend of mine. As it goes with friends, he was eager for me to meet a dear friend of his, a doctor who operated an X-ray clinic. One day, the doctor welcomed us into his office and invited us to sit around his desk. Although born a Hindu, he was disillusioned by prejudice against lower castes and, largely for this reason, had converted to Islam. He was now a scholar of the Holy Quran and accepted the name Muhammad. Peace and blessings be upon him. He continued to accept the teachings of the Bhagavad Gita, but did not want to be affiliated with a religion that discriminated against people on the basis of their birth. I challenged him, but the Gita doesn't discriminate on the basis of one's birth. Many of the greatest saints of the Hindus were born of lower castes. The Bhagavad Gita teaches we are not material bodies, but immortal souls. Together, we discussed the true basis of religion, examining the parallels of the Bhagavad Gita, the Bible, and the Quran. We continued to meet thereafter, and without bias or prejudice, we enriched each other with dialogue. He didn't try to convert me to Islam, and I didn't try to convert him either. Rather, with mutual respect, we shared our realizations. In our dialogue, I could feel the mercy of God flowing through each of the great scriptures, saints, and religions in a special way. I was becoming more and more aware that no matter what one's path, and no matter how narrow it became, in broadest terms, sincere devotion to God was the only way to overcome the strife and division of the world. Sitting on the bank of the Ganga, one day after a talk with Muhammad, I inquired of Narayan Prasad, "How is it that you have so much affection for someone from another religion in a country where there is so much conflict between the two?" With a warm smile, he said something I have never forgotten. "A dog will recognize his master in whatever way he dresses. The master may dress in robe, suit, and tie, or stand naked, but the dog will always recognize his master." If we cannot recognize God, our beloved Master, when he comes in a different dress from another religion, then we are less than that dog. As I had stayed longer with Rama Sevaka Swami than I'd planned, I hiked to the Foreign Immigration Office in Patna to try for an extension. The office was nothing more than a small brick house with an old man behind a desk. There were hardly any filing cabinets. Most of the papers and records were piled high on the official's desk and floor. He searched through these piles for 15 minutes before he found the application form. After filling out the application, I handed over my passport. He studied it for a moment. Then, in a flat, bureaucratic tone, said, "Your visa cannot be extended beyond the current expiration date." His words left me dumbstruck. To leave my adopted motherland would be unbearable. I pleaded with him again and again, but he stuck to his official response. I seemed hopeless. I prayed. At that moment, I saw a painting of Lord Rama on the wall behind him. Meekly, I addressed the man. "Sir, in the country I come from, everybody eats cows." His jaw dropped and eyes opened wide. "What? Killing our sacred cow? How horrible!" "Sir, in the country I am from, Boys and girls often live together without marriage." He shook his head in disapproval and clicked his tongue. "Uncivilized. I shudder to tell you this, sir, but no one in my country has ever even heard the name Rama." He could not believe his ears. Reaching across the desk, he grabbed my hands in his. "You must never go back to that horrible place." "But if you don't extend my visa, I must go back to that place. I came to India to seek shelter in your beloved Lord Rama." He pushed his chair back, jumped up and declared, "I am Rama's devotee. It is my duty to protect you." With these words, he stamped a new visa on my passport. Each morning at Rama Sevaka Swami's ashram, 5 sadhus would gather in the temple to read in Hindi from the Ramayana, the story of Lord Rama. I could understand only a few words here and there, but Narayan Prasad promised me that he would translate whatever was spoken after the session. For 3 hours, the sadhus sat in rapt attention. As emotions flooded their hearts, sometimes they shook in laughter. Other times they wept with joy or sorrow. Still, at other times they sat motionless in suspense, fear, and wonder. I was starving to hear the story that affected them so. When the discussion was complete, I begged Narayan Prasad, "Please tell me everything." We strolled out of the temple and sat on the bank of the Ganga, where he began the narration. One morning, when Lord Krishna was a small baby, his mother, Yashoda, fed him milk from her breast. As she was doing so, she noticed that a pot of milk on the stove was boiling over. So after putting baby Krishna in a safe place, she ran to save it. Krishna did not like being put aside like this. To show that no one should have priorities above service to God, he displayed his heart-enchanting quality of naughtiness by breaking a clay butter pot and eating the butter. Then, stirring up even more trouble, he entered another room where he climbed on top of a wooden grinding mortar. From this height, Krishna could reach up to steal more butter from a clay pot suspended from the ceiling by ropes. While eating to his full satisfaction, he fed butter to the local monkeys. Meanwhile, Yashoda searched for her child. Following his buttery footprints, she spied him feeding the monkeys while glancing fearfully from side to side. She smiled. As she tiptoed toward him, Krishna caught a glimpse of her and fled. Yashoda, overwhelmed by motherly love, chased after him, and Krishna, pleased to be conquered by his devotee's love, agreed to be captured. His little body trembled with the thought of punishment. Tears fell from his eyes, pleas for mercy from his lips. He promised not to steal butter again. Because Mother Yashoda had household chores to do and wanted to protect her baby, she attempted to bind him around the waist with a silk rope to the grinding mortar, but the rope was 2 inches too short, so she tied more rope to the original one. Still, it was 2 inches too short. Her friends, the gopis, or cowherd women, brought more and more rope. No matter what they tried, the rope was always 2 inches too short. Seeing his mother, smiling with uncontrollable affection and perspiring from her work with the rope, flowers falling from her hair, Krishna finally agreed to be bound by her love. In this pastime, Krishna shows us that, although he is the supreme controller of all universes, he finds the greatest pleasure in being bound by the love of his devotees. To my surprise, I found myself overwhelmed with joy and begged Narayan Prasad, "Please tell me more." That's all we spoke today. he replied simply. But the talk was over 3 hours. Please say more. That's all that was spoken. The next day, thrilled by the story about Krishna and a child and by the devotees' enrapt attention to the lecture, I was even more eager to hear. When the meeting ended, Narayan Prasad and I sat on the banks of the Ganga, and once again he told me the same story of Krishna stealing butter. He would tell me no more, no matter how much I begged. With a mischievous smile, he replied, "That is all that was spoken." On the third day during the talk, the emotions of the sadhus were wonderfully vibrant with devotion. Sitting on the bank of Mother Ganga, I looked long and level at Narayan Prasad, my translator. I must hear what was spoken today. He narrated the exact same story of Krishna stealing butter that he told before. Upset, I challenged him. "Why are you doing this to me? Every day the talk goes on for 3 hours, but your story is only 10 minutes. Why do you deceive me?" "But that's all that was spoken." Anger stirred in my breast. Today I listened carefully. Not once was the name Krishna or Yashoda spoken. Now please, please tell me. He smiled and remained calm. "We only discussed baby Krishna stealing butter." Tears filled my eyes. Am I so unworthy that I am not permitted to hear? Seeing my distress, Narayan Prasad became sober. He gazed deeply into my eyes. "Seeing your sincere tears, I will now tell you the reason." He paused for several minutes, then broke the silence. "The first night that you came here, Rama Sevaka Swami had a dream. Lord Rama appeared to him and spoke these words. This young boy is a devotee of Krishna, but he does not know it yet. You must not speak anything to him except the glories of Krishna. Vrindavan will be his place of worship. He will not believe you if you tell him this, but someday he will understand." The Ganga flowed forcefully as Narayan Prasad put his hand on my shoulder. Tears welled in his eyes as he tried to pacify me. My guru, Rama Sevaka Swami, gave me an order. I am not to speak to you about anyone except Krishna. But all my life I've been a devotee of Rama, and although both Rama and Krishna are the same one supreme person who appeared in different forms at different times, the only story I properly know about Krishna is his stealing butter. He reached into his bag and pulled out a print of baby Krishna stealing butter and gave it to me. It charmed my heart. Still, I was unable to grasp what he said. Was I to worship Krishna and in a place called Vrindavan? Because I could not understand it, I dismissed the idea out of hand. All I knew then was that I aimed to return to the caves of the Himalayas. I had stayed several weeks at Rama Sevaka Swami's ashram, enchanted by his gentle manner and that of his followers. The day I was leaving, I bowed down to seek the Swami's blessings. He wanted to give me a gift, but what did he have to offer? Looking around, he noticed his own walking stick and with a tearful smile presented it to me. I was overcome with gratitude. Although it was nothing but a crude branch broken from a tree, it was a gift of love that meant more to me than all the fortune in the world. I accepted his sacred gift, and my eagerness to do so brought him joy. He spoke in a voice cracking with affection as Narayan Prasad translated. The scripture tells us that the stick of a devotee's mercy can save one from the greatest dangers. The stick was to become my constant companion. That's the end of the 5th chapter of the 3rd act of the journey home. Thank you for listening. That'll be enough for today. But if you're interested, you can check out the next reading session. I look forward to continuing this with you, and if you have any insights from our reading, you are more than welcome to share.